This is Women in Music with Gfire Podcast, episode number 22 with singer-songwriter Kat Chapman.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, Kat?
Yes, it's Kat Chapman here. Hi, how are you?
It's Gfire. Nice to meet you on the phone here.
Nice to meet you too.
So, you're up in Boston, right?
That's right.
And have you always been there?
This is where I'm from. Yeah, I guess I could say I've always been from Boston, yes.
You were born there. That's where you grew up.
Yes.
Nice. And so did you start your songwriting in Boston at a certain age? Or?
Yeah, I started writing songs right out of graduating high school, and I also learned how to play guitar just about that time. When I started to learn how to play guitar, and I was in a band as a singer, and the guitar became a tool for me to express my musical ideas with the melodies that I had. I was able to start writing songs with some of the chords that I started learning, and it just kind of went on from there.
And so you were always musical growing up?
I was. I had taken violin growing up. Both of my parents were singers in the church choir, and we had a really wonderful music program, both in school and in church, and it really started to support me, I think, as a really young singer. I mean, I think I always kind of had it in me.
Right.
That thing that I always really loved. And there were times in my life where I didn't really use it. Growing up, I'd go through spurts of maybe being in a chorus and singing groups and things like that. But as far as being the lead singer in a band, that was kind of something that made me feel visible as kind of a shy teenager. I started singing by myself, when nobody was around to hear me, and I'm like, wow, I really like my voice, but I was so worried and afraid to share it with other people in the beginning, and then I kind of started losing little layers of shyness as I started to work with other musicians, and they kind of coaxed it out of me, and then soon enough I was standing on both of my feet, legs shaking, and started singing in front of, wondering if people could see how much my legs were shaking. But started singing at, I think my first real engagement was a Battle of the Bands. It was my senior year in high school.
Oh, wow, and, Battle of the Bands.
We did like a Battle of the Bands. Yeah, there was a lot of bands in my high school, growing up, and kind of came out of the heavy metal rock and roll side of things when I was that age. So I remember covering, some unlikely songs for a female singer. We did a Rush song, we did even a Guns N' Roses song, and then an original song that was like totally a new thing for me was co-writing with a band member at that time, and kind of, that was my discovery of like I could actually write these songs, and I kept on doing it, and here I am right now still in the habit of writing songs.
Well, I think, we're just born with that sort of thing, I mean, you start writing, you start singing at an early age, and you're like, maybe I am supposed to do this.
It's something that I've always turned to. It's therapeutic. It's also, like I said, when I was younger, it kind of made me feel visible. And I think in some ways I still feel that way, as a person. Everybody's got something to share, and I feel like that's one of the better sides of me, and it's a gift, and I feel like I'm honored to be able to sing for people.
Well, it's a great talent to have, and great talent to share with others, and you do have a beautiful voice. I've listened to a bunch of your songs now, and
Thank you.
So what was the name of the band in high school?
I think the very first band in Battle of the Bands, it was called The Gathering.
The Gathering?
And The Gathering,
into magic, The Gathering?
Not in the least bit.
Just curious. So it was just
yeah,
The Gathering.
we've had some Yeah, gathering, and then I think it was after that we playing around in the earlier days of the, I think it was in the early to mid '90s. I started writing as a lead singer of a band called Zinnia Bloom, and we put out our first studio recordings and played a bunch
what was
around.
that name again? I didn't quite get that.
Zinnia with a Z, like the flower.
Okay,
Zinnia Bloom.
Bloom, just one bloom.
Yeah, Zinnia Bloom. And
was that kind of your
was
alter
like
ego at the time, or?
Well, just I think I would say it was like my cutting my baby teeth. Really, I mean, I that was when I first started to really play guitar in a band, and we would rehearse. We'd take our stuff all as a band, and we'd go and set up at I think it was like the French American Legion, where they let us use the room with the stage for free because one of the members was the son of a longtime member of the French American Legion Club. So we got a taste of what it was like to go set up, get all your stuff sounding decent, and then play through a set. And I'm sure that it was not that good listening on the other side of that wall. Everybody was sitting in there, but we got it. It was a place for me to learn how to play really good rhythm guitar because I played with a good drummer. So it trained me. It was like going to boot camp, rock and roll boot camp, and nobody, everybody told me you have to be able to do this, and this, and strike your stuff on and off the stage quickly, and learn how to tune your guitar, learn how to change your strings, learn how to use your microphone, and all these things that sometimes when you're practicing in a garage and you don't ever really get out of there until it's time to get on stage. It was like I had a little bit of that experience before we really started to play out in clubs, so I felt a little bit more at ease with the with the flow of getting on and off of a stage.
That's really good.
That's self-taught. You know what I mean? I mean, that was just how I ended up being educated. I didn't go to Berkeley. I know that it's a big college here and all around the world, really, where people come to go to school in Boston. Wonderful school, but that wasn't for me. Just wasn't in the cards for me. It was kind of like how I learned was through osmosis and just being in a band and being out there. And the Hard Rock University, I guess you could say.
Well, that's what most of it is anyways, You're always hearing about famous musicians who maybe went to music school for a year and then decided they really needed to just get out and play. I mean, that's a common theme, that really what we need to do is play in front of audiences, practice at home, and get tight and keep getting better at our craft and our art. So
right, and I felt like I was lucky to have more of a traditional musical background when I was a child. I had I had some background, so that was kind of the roots, I guess you can say, for what ended up happening with with my songcraft and everything, and a lot of street performing too. I did quite a bit of that as well.
Right. I mean, isn't Amanda Palmer from that area?
I'm not exactly sure where she's from.
Oh, okay. I
originally.
I read her book, and I think she started out as like a living statue, and I don't know if that was in Boston, but it was definitely a street performance thing that she did. What did you do? Just bust? Did you take your guitar and sing and have a...
Yep. Yes, exactly. And I had different places that I would go. The first place I went when I was probably about 21, I started busking in Harvard Square.
Oh, that's good.
Just a real busy hub, and has a lot of history in the folk music scene, and really pretty well supported situation with the town where you get a permit to set up and play, and as long as you have that permit and you're within a certain sound decibel, then you can just get out and put your suitcase out there. So I tried that. That was my first experience busking with the pal. We had a few songs that we were doing together in a band, and ended up taking that busking thing over to Scotland and going to the Edinburgh Festival, and it was all funded from our street performing, which was a really neat experience to go backpacking with our guitars through Scotland and the UK after raising the money in Harvard Square to take the trip in the first place. So that was kind of like a really free and fun and eye-opening summer that I had that year. And a little later on down the road, I started performing at Faneuil Hall Marketplace in Boston. And it was like an audition process, and then you'd get your permit, and you even had to have insurance. And then you would get on the schedule and show up during your allotted time, and it was a little bit more regimented, but still it was all tips and CD sales, and certainly a lot of barriers I broke through as a street performer just because I was out there and there was no difference between the public area and where I was standing to sing. So there was a lot of interaction with people and a lot of genuine exchanges and a lot of strength building for me. So that was a period in my life, I must say, which also felt really unique. And the song that I sent you is about that time in my life, that song Cobblestones.
Okay, so you're just like
sitting
on the cobblestones. Yeah.
Standing on those cobblestones of the old, the cradle of the country, the old streets of Boston. In that area, Faneuil Hall, is a real historic landmark. So it was really cool to have that experience of being, out there in a kind of an international sea of people. Because I think anybody who goes to Boston usually hits that place, Faneuil Hall Marketplace. Right. So I ended up getting my CDs brought to all different parts of the world, and it opened up some pretty neat dialogue and also some interesting opportunities as well.
And you just went over the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Did you have to? How did that work?
Oh, how did that work? We flew by the seat of our pants. We literally, flew into the UK. We were busking. We were getting gigs at hostels. Hostels had a lot of, in London there were a lot of hangouts and bars and stuff like that. So we were getting some gigs like that, and then took a train to Edinburgh and hopped off the train and just started busking on the Royal Mile, where most of the activity is. There was fireworks going off at the top of the hill where the old Edinburgh Castle is, and it was absolutely magical. I've never seen anything like that before in my life, coming from Boston.
Wow.
And opened up our cases and started playing. So basically playing and busking, filling our cases with pounds, and getting to go and buy our food and lodging with the money that we were making, basically busking. And we did the tour around the Highlands and kind of did the same thing, word of mouth. The local pubs were totally welcoming to us as a female duo, something a little different than maybe what people were used to hearing in the pubs. And it ended up being really, it was really, really cool. So that was my first kind of big traveling, touring type of experience as a young musician. And
who was the woman that you went with?
Oh, her name was Micah Williams. We were in a band together for a little while. Ended up going our separate ways, and I continued on playing with my band Katrin. Katrin is my birth name. So I started a band called Katrin.
Was the thing that was after Zinnia Bloom.
Yeah, we had Zinnia Bloom. We had a band called Luna, Flux, with my female friend who also played guitar and sang, the one that I went to Edinburgh with. And then after that, I took my name Katrin, which is my birth name, and wrote songs and played in a band for some time, started recording CDs under that name. Up until not too long ago, I had 5 CDs released under Katrin, and then I kind of underwent this transformation, I guess you can say, of kind of a big transformation as a new mother and a new environment that I'm living in, and kind of a little bit of space from what was, an endless string of trying to play gigs and write songs and make a living and kind of grinding away. I took a little step back, and I felt like I was in a cocoon phase. Wasn't really writing a lot, was feeling a lot of new feelings, especially like frustration with being a new mom and not feeling like I had my identity that I was so familiar with. It was like a brand new identity that I felt like I hadn't grown into yet, and I wasn't sure how I was going to keep on finding the time to write music and move on with my own career. because my kids come first, obviously, and I'm so such a gift to have this experience that it changed me so much that Kat Chapman is now my artist name and my name that I introduce myself by, because, well, I'm married to Chapman and I want to have the same last name as my children. And I also feel like I'm, like this, so here I am still doing what I do, but I feel like there's a different energy behind what I do. And I feel like that's something that I'm really looking forward to riding a wave of.
I'll tell you what, let's play the song that you sent me for our listeners.
Super.
I stood in the sun, I stood in the rain, I sang out my joy, I sang out my pain, I stood in the crowd, I sang here alone, echoing off buildings, cobblestones. Another busy day in Boston scene. The streets are dirty, but I'm singing my soul clean. Soundtrack to a city stroll, free food for an empty bowl. Shooting at pearls, so you give gold to me. I stood in the sun, I stood in the rain, I sang out my joy, I sang out my pain. Many more people will walk on by, many more towers will pierce the skyline. For a nickel of a dime, a minute of your time, I share my life with you. Can I be feel this divas from Harvard Square to Faneuil Hall? Can you feel my pure intention? Feel the peace that demo the walls. I stood in the sun, I stood in the rain, I sang out my joy, I sang out my pain. Many more people will walk on by, many more towers will pierce the skyline. For a nickel of a dime, a minute of your time, I share my life with you. I stood in the sun, I stood in the rain, I sang out my joy, I sang out my pain. I stood in the crowd and I sang alone on these cobblestones. I stood in the sun, I stood in the rain, I sang out my joy, I sang out my pain. I stood in the crowd, I sang here alone, echoing off buildings, cobblestones. Many more people will walk on by, many more towers will pierce the skyline. For a nickel of a dime, a minute of your time, I share my life with you. Many more people will walk on by, many more towers will pierce the skyline. For a nickel of a dime, a minute of your time, I share my life with you.
told me before, Kat, that this song was about your busking days in Boston, right? Cobblestones?
Right. Yes.
But this is a recent song that you wrote about it?
I released a CD, it was a few years back, so that song was more of a recollection of my time as a street performer than I wrote it after I kind of had my experience.
Of being a mom and a wife and...
No, of being an experience. Well, the Cobblestone song is about my experience as a street performer.
But when you
I
wrote
have
it,
other songs.
Yeah. When you wrote Cobblestones, were you in this situation, or were you still in Katrin, or when
I
did
was
you
still
write?
in Katrin. Yes,
Okay.
still in Katrin.
Got it. So this is pre-mom.
Pre-mom, yeah. That's right.
I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. I have plenty of friends that are having children or have children. This is the time of our lives. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Right. I kind of waited a really long time. So
okay.
Well, yeah. So
but then you established yourself as a singer-songwriter first, right?
Exactly, which is what many women are doing in this age. I think there's a lot of women who are waiting to have children because they have a career and they have something going, and it's just that's the main focus up until a certain point in life where you're like, well, if I want to do this, I've got to think about that,
And that's what you did, Yeah.
Indeed.
So I was just kind of getting a feel. So Cobblestones, we're reminiscing about the busking time, but now when you're writing, what have you been focusing on writing about now?
Well, there's a song called You. It's my most recent release under Kat Chapman, and that song is a real dedication to my firstborn child and also my husband. But it took me several months to finish writing, and I think by the time my girl Kyla was about 18 months old, I recorded the song. And that really marked a new place for me. It really it's when you listen to the song You, it definitely has almost like there's honey on top. Compared to some of my other songs where I've been through a lot of twists and turns in my life, and I've had some pretty horrible, experiences, and I've had some really, really wonderful experiences, and all of that, as you know, it filters into your songwriting, and I think, my albums have had different expressions based on what I'm going through because I tend to write from my heart, and that truth was all that love and glow that I felt from being a new mom. So that song You means a lot to me. And that's some of the stuff that I feel like I'm moving into is this. That's what I mean by kind of the honey on top. There's so much to be grateful for in life, and I think some of the songs I've written always have a light at the end of the tunnel, but there's been some hard things that I've written about. And so this, to me, I don't think I could get tired of singing this song, You, or Cobblestones for that matter.
Right,
because they just it's a good feeling. It's a feeling of either triumph or of just being grateful. So I mean, some of the other songs are a little more difficult to sing because they were sadder times in my life, which also need to be expressed. But I find that I'm always psyched when I get to share these tunes because they never get old for me.
Right, exactly. So you have to kind of work harder to get back those old emotions on some of the songs that didn't have a happy ending.
Right, and sometimes I find that they evolve. Some songs that I've played from a long time, I have songs that I still play from 15 years ago, and they evolve. And there's a certain bend on them that they didn't have before, or that there's a certain inflection in the way that I sing the song. I find new, you can always find something in there that will keep, like, you know, you want to keep your own interest as much as you want to keep the audience's interest. So I have a handful of songs that I feel like I can do that with, like, regardless of whether I wrote them about an ex-boyfriend or whatever, you know. It's there's still some good meat in there, and you can keep on making something good, especially when you surround yourself with musicians who bring you know, their light into the scenario, breathe life into it.
Now, I looked on your webpage, and looks like you've worked with some pretty high-end musicians. Are they out of Boston or out of New York, or?
Well, if you're talking about my latest full-length album that I recorded with Jerry Marotta.
Okay.
Jerry Marotta is a producer and a good friend now. We met several years ago, and I ended up going out to the Woodstock, New York area to record at a place called Dreamland.
Okay.
And it's a really big, beautiful space. It was an old church that they turned into a recording studio, and it also has living quarters in it. And we camped out there for a good week and recorded with Jerry. And Jerry brought in some of the people that he knew. John Sebastian being one of them. He did a beautiful John Sebastian of The Love and Spoonful.
Wow.
And so he played, yeah, right? I was intimidated at that session, to say the least. Tony Levin, the bass player, Tony Levin, was at that session. You know, there were some really heavy hitters at that session, and I got to, you know, it raised my, it took the bar up for me, that's for sure. You know, I felt like it was a cool experience. So Jerry, as you know, he's worked with some really big names, and he was Peter Gabriel's drummer for 10 years, and he was in Hall & Oates, and he's worked with Sheryl Crow, and he's toured with the Indigo Girls, and the list goes on and on. And he lives out in the Woodstock area, so we did that recording together, and that's called Frail to Fearless. That's the name of that CD. And
so
he's also recorded some other singles with me. We met through some mutual business contacts, and I ended up driving out to meet him at Dreamland and just sit with him and talk about what I'd like to see happen with my career, and how I'd like to record a really high quality CD. And I played him one of my songs, and then he would come out to where I was living in Boston, and we kind of went back and forth for a little time, doing some development, some pre-production, meeting with my musicians in Boston, and then we all ended up going out to Woodstock and camping out there. Basically, there was a big snowstorm while we were there, so we were all nestled into that studio and started doing all of the basic tracks. And for the better part of almost 2 years, I went and stayed out at Woodstock to finish doing the rest of the recording. It took almost 2 years from start to finish, as these things sometimes take longer than you expect.
Oh, absolutely.
It was a really cool experience, and I look forward to doing more of that with him. We seem to work really well together, and so we're in touch. We'll definitely do another project together soon, and we have some things to finish that we started. So some stuff to look forward to.
Definitely. So that's probably one of your career highlights. Do you have any others you want to share with us?
That was a career highlight for sure. Another one that comes to mind is I was opening for Boz Scaggs. If you're familiar with Boz Scaggs, he's
I think he's from
wonderful.
Texas, isn't he?
I don't know if he's from Texas or not.
Actually, I'm not
sure. Yeah, but Boz, anyways, he was doing a show at an outdoor venue in Lowell, Mass, and I was asked to open for him.
Nice.
So I had a 30-minute set before he went on, and I had Jerry was playing drums, and my friend Johnny Harrington was playing guitar, and it was a trio opening for him. And I had broken a string right before my last song. I had broken a string.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't expecting to do that because I just changed them, and you know, all of a sudden playing, because it's probably the humidity and it was summertime and outside, and so I broke a string, and I was fumbling to try to get my other guitar to go, if I had even had one. I don't remember. But anyways, all of a sudden, out comes an acoustic guitar, a beautiful looking Martin guitar that looked like it was vintage, and then had a beautiful leather strap. It was all cushy, and the stagehand handed it to me and goes, "Here, Boz wanted you to have this. He wants you to play your song with this guitar."
Oh,
really?
Wow.
And I looked to my right, and he was standing there listening to me sing the whole set, which is a rarity. For usually the headlines are hanging out in their bus or wherever they are in the green room, and like he's standing there listening to me sing the whole thing. So I ended up singing John Lennon's Imagine. That was my last song on Boz Scaggs' guitar. Which
oh, wow.
That was an honor, and what a nice and generous person to, number one, hang out and listen to me. You'd never heard of me before, but be interested enough to hear my singing, but also to lend me his guitar the last minute. So that was a pretty big highlight for me.
That's amazing.
A very memorable one, yeah.
Yes, very memorable. You can tell that story to anybody.
Yeah, that was, he's an exceptionally nice guy, for sure.
And how did you get that gig opening for him?
Lots of stalking of the booking agent. I guess I could say, I pretty much stalked him as close as you could come. I was, I just stayed in touch with him relentlessly, and I let him know what I was up to, and I made sure that we stayed in touch, and that, when something did come up, that he'd really know who I was and find a good fit for me. So that's how that ended up happening.
That's how that okay. I'm always curious about the backstory of all these things. You've opened for some other folks that are kind of famous, right?
Yeah, kind of famous, sure. I mean, Chris Isaak.
Yeah.
I opened for him at the Cape Cod Melody Tent.
Cool.
Joan Armatrading. I shared the stage another time with John Sebastian and Huey Lewis. I opened up for him, and John Mayall, a great blues guitarist. Right.
And did you get those gigs from the same agent that you were stalking?
Let's see.
I'm putting
one or two of them. Other ones, yes. John Mayall, Joan Armatrading, like these were all opportunities that I really made for myself by being persistent. I think that's really key, is to not always think of that you're bothering somebody, but that you really need to politely be heard and make sure that you're on their radar. I think that really made a big difference. I just, kept on trying to, it was a goal. And I was glad that I was able to reach it. It took a long time for him to finally, it was something I just didn't give up on. And so I thought that it did pay off eventually to make all that effort. And at the end, I got to sell a lot of CDs and shake hands and sell T-shirts and make a good impression. So that's when I was asked back again a couple more times because it went over so well. So, yeah.
Because, a lot of other singer-songwriters listen to the podcast, so they want to know, what do I have to do to open for who fill in the blank?
I mean, they're not going to really pay you, but the exposure part is what you're looking for. That's
right.
That's definitely where
the opening gigs are not
good exposure.
They're not going to pay a lot of money.
No, like hardly anything. It's really about you. I mean, like hardly anything. Like if at all. That's kind of how it goes when you're an opener. Yeah, you do.
Okay.
Even if you were to go on tour with a national act, the opener doesn't make nothing. You're okay.
Just be prepared
to
make
your ends meet. It's all about exposure. That's what that part's about. Yes. Well,
again, I like giving other artists the backstory, what really goes on behind the stage. So I think that's good to know. Like, don't be expecting I'm opening for, I don't know.
It's an investment in your, exactly. You're trying to get the exposure that you need. Totally, yeah.
And so, let's see. We have, okay, I've got your website is katchapmanband.com, right?
That's correct, katchapmanband.com. Yep.
Do you have, like, any sort of social media that you're busy on?
I do Instagram, Kat Chapman 1. You can find me at.
Okay, Kat Chapman.
And and then there's a music page. If you go to Katrin music page, which is Katrin music page on Facebook.
Okay, on Facebook. Got it.
You can find all those links through my website, the Kat Chapman Band, if you want to connect.
Yeah. Let us see. Is there anything I haven't covered? Are there any other details that you want to throw into the mix here, Kat?
Well, I do have a show coming up on March 20th at the Burn Backroom Series in Somerville, Massachusetts.
Okay.
That has become one of the best listening rooms and accessible places to go to hear real live acoustic music.
Got it.
So I definitely recommend. They have a live stream, so it's definitely worth checking out. They have live music almost every night of the week.
That's pretty cool. And it's
all
acoustic music.
It's not Austin.
Mm-hmm.
God knows it's it's not as plentiful as Austin, which I do hope to come and visit someday. But we have a long history of Americana and roots and folk and rock music here in Boston, and it's good to see that people are passing the torch. Like some venues close, but other ones open or they expand on what they offer as far as live music offerings. So we got some good gems here in Boston. Come see us sometime.
Okay, yeah, I've never played in Boston. Well, it's far. I'm in Austin, Texas.
It
but,
sure is. Yeah, it sure is.
It's on my to-do list. I would like to get up there and do some shows.
Come in the summertime, though, please. Come in the summertime.
Oh, yeah.
Or the fall. The fall is amazing
fall.
here. Right now, it is so gray and so cold.
Oh, yeah.
But not snowing, just cold, rainy. It's February. I can't wait till spring comes.
It's kind of cold and rainy here for us, so, it's not that beautiful right now in Austin. But that could change in a few days. That's how Austin is. But, well, this is fun. I look forward to meeting you in person and maybe do some shows and, you can get your fans to listen to the podcast. I think, why don't you send me your song, You, and then I can end the podcast with that song. Does that sound good?
That'd be perfect. Absolutely. I'll do that right now.
Okay, that would be good. I think that would be a great way to end it. And it's been great talking to you, Kat.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate
You're quite welcome. Have a beautiful week, okay?
Thanks, you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
The sun that warms my soul. You are the porridge in my bowl. All of my sad feelings go, go, go. I love you more than you will ever know. Spend a universe or two fills on up with dread when I think about the day